And then you're gonna see. All right. Can everybody see this? I'm assuming you can if you're not talking to
Yes, we
me.
can. Yeah,
Yeah?
got you.
Duet?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. So most every one of you know me pretty well. I'm Dr. Caroline Carpenter for those who don't, but a little history. I was a doctor of chiropractic practicing for over 12 years with over 20,000 hours in front of actual patients. And I stacked a lot of skills, but I have had a lot of gifts that I wasn't using and I didn't know it. And that's the whole point of this now. I wish I had had someone 25 years ago to show me what could actually work for me versus contorting to what I thought I had to do. Matter of fact, I think I had some people tell me, and I just wasn't hearing it because I wasn't ready. But um, I didn't know how to make offers. I knew how to sell services, and it didn't matter. I would have people come to me from different parts of the US once a year because what I did was so effective for them, but I couldn't charge for the effectiveness because I was limited by my label and by what people associated with a chiropractor. So I could handle what um, seven other practitioners and specialists could potentially in 1 to 3 visits, but I couldn't charge for that or charge for the value because of the small scope of what I was considered. So a label will limit you. So I'll talk a little bit about that in here, but that's kind of the backstory is I fell into here's what I do versus this is who I am, this is who I resonate with, this is the result I can get you with this caveat or this condition, or we can go in this direction. Is it a yes or is that what you're wanting to do right now? Very different model. But so the whole point is to get your next soulmate client. I'm going to cover the outline first, and then we're going to go over the two ways it can look and then get into some psychology and examples so your brains can activate and start narrowing down on the things that you can solve that could easily be 5 figures. And I say easily, it might sound like a stretch. It's really not. So I'm going to explain all that at the end here. And a lot of you've probably heard some of this, but this is going to be my spin. So the whole point of getting a soulmate client, um, when I was in clinic, I helped whoever came through the door. Now, they weren't all good fits, and a lot of them weren't fantastic fits, but most of them were okay, meaning we got along okay, they got a great result, but I wasn't fulfilled because I was limited, right? Loved what I was doing, but I could only use a small piece of my skill set, and I had this gargantuan stack of skills, as most of you have. So the whole point is to be all of who you really are, not just a piece of it, but all, like at 100%. And to deliver how you want to deliver. You know what? Actually, let me see. No, never mind. I'm not going to do that. To deliver how you want to deliver. So I was in the wrong delivery model, but I didn't know there were alternatives. I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought there was one way to do things. Um, so my goal now is to have live by my life first values, and this is freedom, family, and fun. And where I was at the time was hoping to one day exit, but trying to get my practice or my business to a place where I could exit. But it never happened because it didn't work for me. So naturally, my whole nervous system didn't even, your nervous system will not grow into pain, and your life won't either. And it was painful for me to keep going in the direction I was going because it just wasn't a fit. So, how do you get your next soulmate client? You got to broadcast who you really are to the world, like the real you. I was trained to hide parts of myself starting in childhood. By the way, most of the things that you were taught are inappropriate as a child for society is your gift coming out. And it makes people really uncomfortable when a new being spits some truth bombs in a room full of adults. If y'all haven't seen Max Alexander, he is the 4 year old. He's 9 now. He designs dresses for runway models. When he was 4, He looked at his mother at the dinner table and said, "Hey, mom, I'm a dress designer." She listened, and the dude doesn't even lay plans. He just picks, he's like the ultimate creative, right? He chooses, um, you can see it on Instagram. He chooses the fabrics and the dress or the coat or whatever he's designing comes together after he chooses the fabrics. It's crazy good to see. That is supported genius from a young age, which, from my perspective as women, most of us are taught to be a much smaller version of ourselves or something else altogether to fit in. So I know every one of you here has a very unique skill set, a very unique genius, and can solve really valuable problems and impact the world. So, like, I know most of you personally. So, broadcasting who you are, now there's an art to that. We're not going to talk about how to show up on social media today, though, or in the world. Talking to those who resonate with you at a values level, not at a I solved this problem level, but this is who I am. Um, and you can imagine, like, there's all sorts of polar uh, examples out there, right? Polar ideas, sharing opinions. I was taught it can hurt business. Here's what it'll really do. I mean, there's some places you don't want to go, but sharing your belief and opinion will bring the right people. They will bring your people to you faster than anything because they can see themselves in you. And most people are terrified to share an opinion. Um, so it'll also push the wrong people away. So sharing all of who you are at the values level will repel the wrong people and attract the right people. So you're not dealing with a headache later. Let's actually look at what that looks like. There's this or that, right? There's this or that. And this is meeting your next soulmate client, right? This actually came from the relationship roadmap in the blueprint. Um, and it's like they were meant for me, right? So this is where we get to be 100% who we are from an authentic place. Can actually be triggering for us as women, especially if we weren't allowed. But we're allowed to be all of ourselves with a shared vision and can lead from identity first, which will pull the strings of all the right relationship, allow us to set the right boundaries and have the right amount of energy available, connect deeper with ourselves, and pull our business forward from a vision, purpose, and passion place. Now, here's what can happen, and this is what I lived for a very long time, and maybe y'all haven't experienced this, but there's this version of a client or even close relationship, right? Uh, Projecting all the stuff or all the old beliefs or all the things that went wrong or that we don't want to deal with, or not that we don't want to deal with, that we never intended to in the first place. And what this will do is it'll activate, it's called the drama triangle or the trauma triangle, and you'll fall into savior or you'll fall into the wrong roles. It's a really hard triangle to get out of, but it'll usually replicate whatever was taught to us at an early age. This is where amygdala hijack comes in. We're not going to get too deep into this, but your whole body will potentially be activated, kind of like that pit in your stomach, or the idea of calling someone, or having that hard conversation, or even cutting ties altogether, or drawing a boundary. That may have your body flipping out. And this is usually all the things that'll deal with. It's called an amygdala strategy. I just kind of wanted you to see what it would look like. But this is where we're functioning from attachment over authenticity, and it doesn't feel good. And it's akin to giving up who we are for what we do to one day exit or to one day change it. And I couldn't do this anymore. I had to leave. Some people can overlap. I had to hard exit because I had gone for so long that I decided I don't care what happens. I'm going to do this or nothing. So let's get back down to here's how you find your people. You got to talk to those who resonate, broadcast who you are, and make invitations. There's workshops, conversations, and offers. Now, there's more ways, but those are the general. So, offers is what we're talking about today. How am I doing on time? Cool. It's the number one income producing activity. It's also the most overthought thing ever. Ask me how I know. By the way, hey, would you like to go to coffee? That's technically an offer. It's an offer to get together. Let me show y'all something real quick. And I totally forgot to drop something in the chat, but I'll drop it here in a second. These are in the bundle. That's the psychology piece. I drew this out on, it's not construction paper like, kids play paper. It's like actual carpenter construction paper or paper. That's what my husband does. So I used his paper. Here's the logistics. I go into a little detail here, but I had this as a visual. I just wanted you to see what we're talking about here. So we might get into that in a bit, but I also don't want to fire hose you because you have access to that in the full video. Let me see, where did we get here? So this is the number one income producing activity, making the right offers to the right people at the right time. The problem here is the only way to know what the right offer is to put it in the hands of people and get feedback. And that is the number one thing that would hold me back is, ooh, what if they don't want this? Or what if they don't want that? Or what if that's too far? Or what if this is way out of line? Or like, what if I look crazy? If you can imagine it, someone wants it. Let's put that out there. So the old way is taking someone through the old sales cycle of uh, let's find a lead, let's give them a pitch, let's try to overcome objections, convince them that they actually need this thing, get them to buy. If they didn't buy, follow up, figure out if we can sell them something else. It's very transactional and it's not very relational. And from my experience, women never liked that anyway. Um, the new way, I call it the soulful way. It's relationship first, it's values first, and it's, hey, I have a skill set. Are you hungry today? I have this menu item that I put together from a list of ingredients, skills, and certifications and things that I can do. Would you like to try this? So it's like looking at a menu item when you're ready to eat or a menu and choosing versus please eat this food right now. Clean your plate, clean plate club. So no example is perfect, but I covered the ingredients versus the menu item in one of the videos, and we can walk through that as well because that was actually a really big one on labels. We're going to look at what goes into Soulful Offer and then how to get it in the hands of your next soulmate client. It's way easier than you would think. In the bundle, I go through step by step. It's in school. I think most of you are in there by now. I sent you an invite on Facebook Messenger. So the goal is to get your next soulmate client in 7 days. And it's possible. Most of you have people in your audience who are ready to buy now. They're just waiting to see what they want to buy. And what people do now, really what they've always done, but it's now becoming mainstream. People would rather buy from people than companies. So if you are a person with a skill set and your audience knows who you are, meaning you broadcast who you are, broadcast who you are, if they resonate with your values and then they need the thing solved or think they need what's next from you, that's when they come find you. So, personal brand is one of those things that's almost required now, and it's interesting what's happening. So, those of you who have kept it real, um, heck yes for us. Here's a bit of the psychology. So, the right offer, right? We'll talk about what's in an offer here in a second, but let's talk about what the right people are. They've made a decision. They know what they think they need. I say they know what they think they need because most of you have heard sell them what they want, give them what they need. Here's where I went wrong for a very long time and where most people go wrong. We lead with all the work someone's going to need to do to get a result. Psychologically, a human will hear all the work and shut down. This is why almost no weight loss commercial says restrict all the fun things you want to eat for 6 months, go to bed hungry, and exercise daily, and then you'll get your result. It's like 7-minute abs or 10 pounds in 3 days doing this one thing without blah, 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 blah. So the psychology piece is Um, Lead with what the person wants. But if you've already led with values, everything won't rest on that one result. Because there's a piece in an offer document that really hitches most women, including myself, and we'll talk about that. It's the promise piece. I'll go ahead and tell you. So the people have made a decision. They're ready to act. They resonate with who you are. They resonate with your values, and they see themselves in you somehow. Somehow, like whether it's what you've already been through, what you've overcome, what your services are. Now, when I say services, I mean like to what degree do you deliver? Is it who's it for? High, I don't want to say high, mid, or low ticket, but it's like, is it premium? Are you the easiest to work with? Are you the most fun to work with? Is it a good experience? Those kinds of things. So usually what they'll be drawn to is the parts in themselves that they haven't embraced, but they want to. And then the time. This is all about pain. I saw a lot of this in chiropractic. Um, we are fantastic as humans at suffering. There's really no better way to say it. Especially as women, we are fantastic. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but from what I know about the women I work with, we are wonderful at helping others first and getting our cups filled by helping others. And then when there's a boundary that's crossed, or we're not paid the value, or we've over delivered, or we're waiting for someone to show us our worth in a way, that's where pain can come in. But on the buyer end, someone typically has to go through enough pain to decide, I have to do something. So this is where the pain of change outweighs the pain of staying the same. And that's what makes it the right time. Money is almost never it. Now, sometimes it is, but money is the easy, logical reason to not move forward for everyone, all of us, because it's resource, right? Money equals safety to humans. It's like our basic safety net now. Um, so the question is, have they experienced enough to know that nothing's going to change until a different action is taken? And there are different kinds of pain. There's mental, there's emotional, and there's physical. So if we're going to look at this from a like a seesaw perspective, this is where the pain of staying the same significantly outweighs the pain of change because the brain can conjure all sorts of ways things can go wrong in the future. Conjuring all sorts of ways things can go right in the future is not typical. That's not how we're wired. That's not how our limbic system works. And that's why when someone's ready to move, they're ready to move. And actually, let me talk about the market real quick. At any point, 3% of people are ready to buy. That's 3%. Those are the people who are like, I have a problem. I need it solved right now. Let's do this. They have made all the decisions. This is where direct sales came from. Um, the solution where people, there's about 27-ish% of people who are solution aware. So they're shopping, but it's not urgent. So they're looking. And then there are people who are completely unaware or problem aware. They might be saying words like, I want help or I want this to be different. They haven't made the flip to solution mode yet. Another big mistake is focusing here when someone's not actually ready to solve something or move forward. So this is where knowing who your people are, uh, knowing that they have a desire, a willingness to take action, and they are a good fix, so you don't want to fork your eyeballs out later. Um, I'll go ahead and hit this. So once they're ready to buy, they've made a decision point. They may still collect data. This is where the offer document comes in, clutch. Um, they may think and collect more data, and then there's a decision point. Interestingly, 80% of a purchase is about timing, meaning, is this what they think they need now? And is there a limit of some sort, a boundary, limited spots, shifts, or a timeline? Only 20% is the message. And there's always two reasons to buy. The first one is always emotional resonance, always. So if you're not broadcasting who you are at a values level into the world, that won't be there. And even if what you're offering makes sense, it won't feel right. So the timing could be right, the price could be right, They could even get everything they ever wanted, but it just won't feel right. So this is where uh, leading with your vision and values, and then seeing the future reality or result or version of themselves in what you're offering makes all the difference in the world. And so the general things people buy are relief and collapsing time. Um, we're not. I'll hit this real quick. There's three general markets. There's health, wealth, and relationships. And then there's four types of offers, two of which are money. Make money, save money, live a better life, stay legal. Here's where don't, if I could tell you what to do, I'd say avoid labeling yourself because you're going to be limited to everyone's perception of exactly what it is that you do versus the result you can get them. Do label your mechanisms, your offers, um, because that's what will speak to the limbic system. And here's a little tradition versus new stuff. But let's go up also real quick. Here's what will go in the offer doc from you. The sweet spot is right here. It's a combination of what you love to do, it's your passion, it was written in your soul, what you're good at, which is where you've put all your reps, your certifications, your training, your life experience. What the market will buy is going to be an indication of what people say yes to as a result of putting things out there. And so let's go ahead and move to that. So that's the psychology. What's in an offer doc? So there's going to be a vision, the big picture, the results, the win that someone wants. It's got to be good in the first paragraph or the first line, or you'll lose them. And when I say good, it might not be for them, and it'll be an easy no. And a no is as good as a yes because they've ruled themselves out, or it's not the right time, or you can find out why it wasn't a fit if they are your person. What it is and isn't, this is your first big filter. If someone wants done for you, a DIY program's not going to work, or an information situation's not going to work. If someone is wanting information and wants to take all the time in the world and doesn't need the result in a specific amount of time, high touch one-on-one is going to seem overwhelming because that's not what they're after. So this clarifies boundaries and expectations, and that's going to be important for the promise. So I don't like the word promise. I've warmed up to it, but I like to call this more of a vision because as a female, when I think promise, I feel like I am now responsible for the other person's action. So whatever they do, regardless of XYZ, I said they would get this result because they handed me money. Oh my gosh, I have to make this happen. No, that's not how that works. So, but a lot of us have been conditioned like that. I have. So the promise is concrete outcome or shift. You need numbers here, something you've done for yourself or others. And interestingly, usually the most impressive thing that would be a five-figure offer for women is like the scary thing they don't want to offer because there's a couple thoughts that will run rampant, and I'm going to show you a few examples here in a minute. Um, Vision, here's how you position this. You'll walk away with the tools, the skills, my expertise, etc., to position yourself to get XYZ results in X amount of time, if time is a component. Now, every market's different and every person is different, so every offer will be different. There's install offers, one-off offers, transformation offers. So there's anything from like one time X amount of minutes to a year of high touch support mentorship to cohesive business deals where there's like partnership. But this is where the boundaries of what it is and wasn't isn't what it is and isn't needs to be dialed in. The plan is how it works. This is where most people focus, over explain, and lose the person on the other end. Trying to convince from this place. I say this because that was me. I had a million mechanisms, totally overwhelming. Now I just ask what someone's up to, and if they position a problem, I'll ask a little deeper and then ask if they want help with that. And then it's a yes or a no, or there'll be confusion. And then it's like, well, are you living the life of your dreams and the internal experience doesn't match? Or is there something you want to achieve externally that you haven't? And it usually has to deal with making money to be who they truly are, or the internal experience of doing what they know they need to do. Um, which I'll talk about that in a second. But this is the number one problem, uh, is trying to replace a promise or the vision with the plan. That does not work. That just sounds like a lot of work to someone who wants relief in some sort of way. So, name your mechanisms, just don't use them as a promise or a vision. And with naming mechanisms, um, this comes as you figure out the logistics of what you do. There'll be a name that you really like. This is what I do. There'll be a name, like one word that you can talk about that will stick in people's minds where they can associate a version of what you do. I used to try to explain with a lot of words. It's just, there's only so much humans can handle. And then five, the price and how to step in, the investment in the door. People need a door to walk through. Um, they need to know clearly where the door is. And if they don't know where the door is, they don't know how to raise their hand to be like, hey, can you help me walk through that door? So that's just the call to action. The neurology of this, actually, let me give you an example. Here's three examples. One I heard yesterday, and I'm not going to name names, but these are great examples. So these are five-figure offer examples, meaning over a period of time, the payoff for investing in this would easily 10x the investment. So a regenerative lamb farmer had no idea. These are real situations, but I'm going to keep the identities safe. So there's a regenerative lamb farmer who had no idea what she was sitting on at 90% profit margin, looking at a six-figure run rate within 2 years. And she could have done it at one, but she had no idea the skill stack she had accumulated and what she naturally learned from her grandmother. She sold out in 2 weeks from necessity. It was either everything dies or I sell as much as I can. And she figured out, okay, well, now I know how to sell. Let's just make this happen. And within 2 years, she's now at a six-figure run rate from zero. I'll save you the details because there's like she's going to start releasing content on her store. It's amazing. But the evolution of an offer, selling out your inventory, that can be done in days, assuming someone has inventory. We'll say 10 grand meat's kind of expensive. Someone has inventory to sell and they have either access to customers or access to someplace to get customers. It's just a matter of how much action are they willing to take. Pressure does a lot of things. Second piece, so that this seems quite easy, right? It's like if you have a liability sitting around that can become an asset, uh, it can happen in a matter of days, depending on how much action you're willing to take and how uncomfortable you're willing to get. Um, and then insert the mechanisms for 90% profit margin. That's unheard of. Most businesses are at around, most brick and mortars are around 15% at best, 30% is amazing. Now, farms, it depends on regenerative versus regular, but 90% is wild. And her chores take 15 minutes a day. If someone was willing to move, she could install that system in 4 to 12 weeks. So these are ideas of an offer, right? A quick, a quick offer, uh, a mid-time offer, and then putting someone on a six-figure run rate at a 90% profit margin by learning how to sell out initially. That would probably take about 12 months, 12 months, maybe as little as 6 months. That's easily a six-figure offer. But in her mind, she's like, but can it be done? And she did it and taught two other people how to do it without realizing what she was doing. So that's what that looks like. The return on, well, let's say someone's selling 10K in product a month and they're at a 90% profit margin. Just do the math on that over a year. There is a medical practitioner who took almost 15 years to figure out what they could actually do with their license. It's not a doctor or a specialist. And they could position students to make nursing students to make between 54,000 and 187,000 their first year out of school if they would spend a few months with her. easily a five-figure offer because that's going to collapse time and it's a make money offer over a period of time, save like a decade. Um, Pastors, growing a church from 16 to 800 plus members probably would take about 6 months of work to get on that run rate, but I don't know the logistics here. I just heard this number yesterday and I'm like, that's easy, a five-figure offer. Reverse engineering the steps is the piece, but finding the people that want this is the key. And you have to say that to find them because they will resonate and then they will zone in on that. Here's what happens to most people when they're sitting on gold. Oh crap, what if this works? This is your amygdala talking. We're going to talk about the neurology in a second. The person who spent their whole life seeing what not to do, or 10 plus years, I've seen too much. They don't want to do what they're going to have to do. I would have never gone to chiropractic school if I'd have known how hard it was actually going to be and that I was going to pay $250,000 only on the first day of class to be told, look to your right and your left. One of you won't graduate because you'll be weeded out in the first trimester, and the other one of you won't make it past the first year of business. Good luck. So, $250,000 to have a 33% success rate, day one. Great, thanks. So, it's like the stakes are much lower when you've already figured out how to do something, but just haven't written the steps down because it's written in your DNA. You're too close. You're in the forest. So I've seen too much. I've seen everything not to do, and I've seen what others should avoid, but nobody's going to want to do it. Well, what this really means is you can eliminate all the variables that they'll miss and save them a ton of time. And then there's the version of, I don't know enough. This happened way too fast. Maybe this was a fluke. Maybe I accidentally got lucky. Or maybe you're like Max Alexander and you knew you were a dressmaker at 4 years old and someone said, okay, let me help you. And that's your gift. So either way, this one knows everything not to do, and this one knows exactly what to do. And it's just two different sides of the same coin. All right, let's get done here. Let's see. I've got there's the logistics. Um, yeah, $100 offer versus a $10,000 offer. It's just perceived value. It's how much pain is the person in who's shopping? What is their actual desired result? And how much time do they want to collapse? That's about it. That's really it. I spent almost $40,000 on one skill set after chiropractic school, after I bumped around for over 12 years, finding every certification I could find to try and heal trauma at the cellular level, and nothing would work. I would action like nobody's business, but my body would hold me back. I spent five figures after 10 years of the pain of not being able to pull off what I knew what was possible with myself and other people. So a five-figure offer is usually not the first step. It's gonna be after a result of trial and error with the buyer. Um, it's also gonna be being consistent with putting out putting out what you're doing, sharing, right? And when it's time, making invitations. But that's where you got to figure out how to package your menu items versus just giving a list of ingredients and hoping people can figure out, use their creative mind to figure out what to do with it. Um, the big result in a short amount of time that kills big pain, that's a five-figure offer. And labeling what you do is the biggest limiter that I've ever found. As in, I'm a chiropractor, or I'm a coach, or I'm a personal trainer. There's generally coaching, consulting, and mentorship in varying degrees. Whatever your expertise is, you can name that mechanism. But for me, um, I was limited for a very long time under the label of chiropractor. And um, I consistently see that with the people doing really well. They will not label themselves. They label their mechanisms and they label their packages, but they will not label who they are. Well, they won't label what they do because what'll happen is it will erase who you are right here in the middle, which is what connects everyone to your why. So they might see you, but they won't see you as the person who can help them get to the result they're wanting. And then let's go to neurology. Almost done, y'all. Not doing too bad. I also forgot to drop my offer in here. No pressure. I'll do that in a second. The neurology piece to this. Here's the whole point of an offer. Your offer right here is the bridge for many people very similar to you. Most of your soulmate clients are going to be a version of you. Even if they're ahead of you in other areas of life, you'll have skills that they need and they can see themselves in you, and you may even get asked about it. So the offer is going to be the bridge. So, assuming current reality or identity, this is where most of your soulmate clients are. Now, once they're out of denial of it's okay, once they've had enough pain, uh, and they look over here and see, oh, this is exactly what I want. All of a sudden, old beliefs, fear, doubt, worry, all the life proof that they can ever think of that it won't work, the people, relationships, and habits, that all forms their current identity and reality. And what happens is thinking about what or who they'll have to let go of, even if it's not true. 99% of times, it's not even true. This will activate what's called your amygdala, which that little sucker has a set point that's mostly locked in by 3 years old prior to language and memory. So, what activates this stuff, you won't be able to pinpoint, right? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. It starts as a body physiology. It's like, pit in your stomach, flush in your face, that oh crap panic moment. There will be an emotion attached, and then the thoughts will take over to convince you to do the other thing. That's the order. It's just called an amygdala strategy. Amygdala set point will activate, and that is what taught you how safe money is in what quantity, how fulfilled and healthy you're allowed to be, and how you're going to do relationships. And interestingly, whatever that set point is, that amygdala is, it's like the bouncer. It memorized what was safe. The whole point of 0 to 7 was to prepare us for the rest of life, like to replicate the rest of life. But if there was any chaos or conflict or separation or trauma or drama or heartache or difficulty, that's what was memorized. So a good offer shows the person the version of themselves or the outcome that's meant for them that they really want. But this amygdala is like, oh, buddy, that ain't safe. So it'll pull all this stuff. And that's why they need to see this to be able to see around it and see the version of you that helps them believe it's possible. Because the number one stopper of going after what people want is belief in themselves and trust in themselves. The two most common fears are I'm broken beyond repair, and if I lose control, everything will fall apart, even if I'm dying right now. Now, if you are fantastic at taking action, your body will actually do weird health stuff. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice, but bodies have strategies. Mine would throw a migraine or have body tension or whatnot. Everything's attached. There's plenty of research on it by now, but the amygdala will go along the line. If it can't get you with thoughts and it can't get you with fear, it will default to the body stuff, and it can look like anxiety and depression and all the things. So, been through all that, which is why I talk about it. So that's all I had to cover. There's more, but I don't want to assume I know what y'all want to know or need to know or are interested in. So, does anybody want to look at any of these pictures anymore, or do y'all want to go into Q&A?
Can we look at the concepts again one more time under logistics?
Yeah. And again, this is the video. So, do you want me to walk through it with you? Or you want to take a screenshot?
Yeah, I want to take a screenshot. Hang on. Got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Is that you, Georgia?
It is.
Beautiful. Anybody else want to look at something before we go to Q&A? And then I'm gonna drop my offer in. No pressure to look at it, but anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna stop screen share then. Because I wanna know what spoke to y'all, what y'all are thinking. Stop share. Let me go here into the chat. Oh, we got chats. Let me see if I can. Cool. Check this out if you like. I got 5 spots open till Monday. I made it ridiculously easy to come in, but it's a lot of good stuff. A lot of these photos are actually in the thing. So, if you can imagine someone wants it. Yes, definitely was taught to always take care of others first. Oh, definitely. Oh, sweet spot. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Who's got questions, comments, concerns, regrets? Anybody want to throw some ideas? Because if you got numbers, we can reverse order a potential offer right here. I've also got an offer builder in the bundle. But usually if someone talks long enough, I can pull the numbers that will give a concrete version of the result. Anybody want to give it a go?
A question.
Yeah, talk to me.
So, typically I price my interior design projects based on scope and square footage.
Mhm.
So my offer prices differ depending on the size of the project and difficulty of the project.
Yeah.
So does that change the way you build your offer?
Oh, this is a good question. I'm going to go kind of off track if that's okay, because I think this will directly apply to you. My husband reopened his business and he wanted to do it different and easy, pressure washing and soft washing. Soft washing sounds like who cares, but apparently it's a big deal with the men because it adds chemicals and it makes the house look nice. And so he said he decided he was only going to do that. All of a sudden he has $50,000 in bids that have been accepted for like potential like partial remodels, but he started with pressure washing and people figured out in a very short amount of time what he was really good at. So my thinking is I like your thinking. Is there a very specific thing that you love to do that's easy on you? Or your prices like so general, it's easier to go specific and then general, even though that sounds wild. So like if you go specific as in I add shade X2 green to your room to make the resonance 76 nanometers, and this is what it'll do. It's crazy, but it'll take people out of the thinking of uh like what's your scope. So scope usually is like the second thing. When you like, do people have to use their brains to figure out like, is there a super specific thing you hone in on for starters? Or is it, hey, I'm a luxury interior designer. This is a list of my services. What are you looking at?
No, I generally ask them questions and then I tell them what their scope is.
Perfect. Give me examples of scope real quick. I'm gonna try to extract language.
So, basically it breaks down to what rooms are included in the
Mhm.
scope. And then I ask them how much help they want because I kind of offer some different tiers of help from just vision to like a mid-range. And then I have like my full-blown, I do everything for you.
Mhm, mhm.
So it fall into one of those three tiers, and then it includes the rooms. So like kitchen and baths have a are a bigger scope because you have to work so hard to make them efficient and to work well for the client. Than say like a living space, like a living room or a bedroom. So
Gotcha. Let me draw real quick. Let me see if I can do this on a whiteboard. So the thing about offers Y'all, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know how to. I'm just gonna die here. Oh wow, look at me. Ooh. An offer is very specific. Pricing services is very general. Offer is like, here's my candy. Are you in the mood for candy? I'm not sure. Maybe I might have a sweet tooth. What kind of candy do you have? I'll have chocolate or Starbursts, or do you want a really high-end dessert? Oh yeah, what does that look like? So offer is like the entry point versus but it's like a full scale. There's an entry point, there's a mechanism involved, and there's a result. So it's more of a question of what's the most favorite result you've gotten someone? Like, what have they told you?
I
What word,
mean,
what words do they
they,
use to you and
my
to,
favorites are just, um, like 2 years later when somebody's like, I love my space so much. Every time I walk in there, I just feel so good. Like,
what kind of people are they? Is it women, men? What were, what room was the room that made
this
all?
is a woman and it was a bathroom.
Okay. Um, what did she do in the bathroom? I know that sounds like a weird question, but
Uh,
what did she do in there? What made
Um,
it awesome?
so it's the space she shares with her husband. And they had some complications with like their traffic paths were too narrow. And so like they're both, you know, average to above average size people. So when they're trying to move around each other in the bathroom, it was really hard. Her sink was with a mirror in front of it, was directly across from the toilet. So,
Okay. So this
there
is
was a tub. They didn't use the tub. So like, I mean, we made a lot of changes.
okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
so it's about how the space works. Not only is it beautiful, but it's about how it works for them.
Okay, perfect. I think I know what you mean. So you're basically like the doctor of interior designers because it's hard as a consumer to figure out how's this going to make my life different. It sounds like her and her spouse can now enjoy their time together without tripping over each other, and there's probably less fights, and she feels good when she's in there, and it totally changes her day because she likes what she sees and she just feels like a queen in there.
Right. Yes.
That's the kind of language you use for an offer versus what, yeah, so this is where you get people thinking in the direction that they'll be in once they've used you. That sounds bad, but once they've used your services, lead with their experience they'll have. And then somebody drew, or was this me? That's awesome. So lead with, you're gonna feel like the queen every morning, and you're even gonna think loving thoughts about your spouse because you have your own space and he has his own, whatever that is, lead with the limbic love story version of the end result of your work. That usually takes price off the table. Like not all together, there's far lefts and right, but that usually
I
makes you the person for the people. When you can tap into that thing, that feeling they're looking for. Does that help?
yes.
Perfect. And then price is like the last uh that's like the last detail. Like once they've decided, oh, she's my girl, um, money is just a detail at that point versus the leading factor. So
Okay.
yeah, you got,
Thanks, Carolyn.
I want you to do my bathroom. Like my bathroom right now. Like, yeah, that'd be great. I still feel good in my bathroom, but it's because I ignore things. Cool. Anything else? Anybody else?
My problem is knowing exactly what I want to offer or like how to offer the things I think I'm supposed to do.
Beautiful. Hold, please. I'm gonna re-screen share y'all, okay? Thank you for asking this. This is exciting. Melissa got a dose of this yesterday. She's like, Caroline, how are you gonna cover all this? I was like, I don't know, Melissa. All right. This is what you're talking about. In the inner circle slash blueprint, when we went over numbers one day and knowing your numbers, and it's not what you think. So what you're good at, that's your natural passion. What you would do if you don't have to do anything. That's just what you're naturally drawn to. You're naturally good at. The moment you do a few reps, it's like, oh wow, I'm really good at this, like better than normal. And so these are the number of reps you've completed in life. For example, when I finally sat down and calculated how many hours I had in front of patients, interpreting what their nervous system was saying, what their body was saying versus what their mouth was saying, it was about 20,000 hours. When I sat down and calculated the amount of money I've dumped into investing in knowledge, actually it was like over 800,000, but nobody really cares about that because that's just money invested. It's not like it was into anything until you do something with it. But about 20,000 hours in front of patients. I think I was close or just above 11,000 hours on a horse by like 17 years old. I can't calculate the amount of hours that I played a cello because I was forced to and I hated it. But I had this list of hours once I sat down and actually calculated where my reps have gone in life. So if you've accumulated experience in life, you're going to have accumulated skills. And those skills are stackable and monetizable. And whatever it is, like whether it's, 10,000 hours massaging bodies, that's not just rubbing a body, that's learning how things fit together. You'll speak a different language, right? So that's the 10,000 hour rule is a general rule of mastery. So if you have 10,000 or close to 10,000 hours in any category, you are a master at that, whether you buy into it or not. Now, once you start seeing numbers and find other numbers as far as results you've gotten, that's when you can tack a result onto expertise. And uh, here's what stops most women. It's the idea that, well, until I see it over and over again, I can't really prove it's true. Well, that's what experimenting's for. Some of my most fun things have been experimenting in my office. And believe it or not, most people want the novelty and they will pay top dollar for the experiments. Think about big pharma. Those experimental drugs and experimental trials, they cost a decent amount of money because it's not approved yet. It's new, it's novel. Really, they're capitalizing on novel, if we get down to it and talk business. So once something's proven, the general idea is cost goes up because you can predict it. The paradox is when something's novel and it's brand new, the cost can also be really high. Think about every new iPhone. Think about the brick phone when it first came out. Like people were carrying around these big bricks and they would pay like thousands of dollars just to have first access. So novel and proven are the two high price points. So if you have an imagination and you have a skill set and you can imagine something new happening and you throw it out there are people who will say yes if you're like, hey, look, I don't know how this is going to work, but I have a really good idea. That's how I've done a lot of my in-office clinical trials. I even presented, there was this transformation enzymes. There's a supplement called protease. It's pure proteolytic enzyme. Now, it made me sick the first time I took it because it detoxified everything. And I wanted to know, holy cow, this is a crazy Herxheimer reaction. I draw, I draw rebel people. I wonder how many of my people will want to try this. And so I designed an experiment and said, look, here's everything that could go wrong. Here's what happened to me. And here's what else I've seen happen. Are you in? Now, granted, I didn't have them pay for it because I genuinely just wanted to see. I took like 15 people through it. And the only variable I had them change was taking that pill. These are the results people got. Uh, one guy, he was an Ironman. He did the Ironman athlete, went from struggling to run 3 miles to running 10 miles and getting bored. He was like, I just got sick of running and I didn't get tired. I just got sick of running. So I stopped. It was crazy for him. He'd have to eat like a 5 pound bag of Sour Patch Kids. That was like crazy for him. Someone else who was trying to lose weight lost 5 pounds and didn't even realize they lost 5 pounds because they forgot to buy bread on repeat, bread and cheese, and they loved both. A few people decided like didn't even like cigarettes anymore, but they were upset about it, so they kept trying to smoke and get the same thing. A few people didn't want sugar anymore. The point was this enzyme like cleared so much of the body's need for toxic stuff, but it was an experiment and I led with everything that could go wrong, but what I saw in myself that could also go right. And so there was nothing proven from my perspective. There was a decent amount of research from the company, but you know, the trade-off for collapsing time, that it's kind of like the bottom piece of an infomercial, even though, you know, it'll lead to health in the end, it won't actually hurt things. People will pay for novel and proven. The misconception is it's got to be proven for people to want it, or it has to be proven to try it. So I would make a list of all the hours you've ever spent doing anything. And there's an offer builder in the bundle in school. I don't know if you're in there yet, Charisse, but it will ask you questions. And if you've never tried to build one yourself, it'll give you some really good ideas.
I
Doing
got in there. Um, I think the biggest thing is like I know. I mean, I
Is it-
know I'm a healer. I know I've gotten these certifications to do the quantum stuff, healing I'm doing now and things like that. It's just I just don't know.
Okay, great. I think I know where you're going. You don't even know where to start with it.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean, so you can do it in person, you can do its energy, you can do it anywhere, but
right.
like I,
Let's start
don't.
with a goal. Like, what do people, why are you so passionate about it? What did it do for you?
I'm passionate about it because it's a modality where it's in the quantum and you get results faster than with like just Reiki or things like
Oh,
that. Unlike psychotherapy and things like that, when you're dealing with trauma and things, it's a much gentler way of doing it. You can go in,
got
call your
result.
higher self in, work in the quantum,
What's the result?
and
What-
you can address the trauma and things and release it, let it come up for letting you see it and release it in much slower without having to live and go through it like you do with psychotherapy and having to go through all the pain points and stuff. That you can see it in an objective type way while you're in the quantum, but then also release it and let it go so you're not pulling all that trauma back in and having to live through it again. It's
Okay,
also good for helping people clarify and find their next um
right. So
like
like,
if it's
what's the result? The
clarity,
actual of what?
clarity,
What?
clearing. It depends on what you want to do. Clarity, like I mean, because you can go in and do it for so
Gotta,
many different
gotta,
things.
gotta pick something.
Well, and see, that's where I get things. So I've done it with so many different people now. Like I've done it with Mickey, I've done it with Jerry, I've done it with some of my friends that are
Gotta pick something. You gotta pick health, happiness, or wealth. One of those three main categories to start with.
um health and happiness are more where I'm
Okay.
leaning. It's not about wealth. It's about
Specifically,
solving a problem, be it childhood trauma, be it looking for clarity on your next steps or where you need to
right.
go to get the healing or things like that.
So what's the specific 3D thing that they can point at that they will get after a session?
Peace,
What
direction,
what does that lead to? What's the next thing that that'll get them?
more joy, happiness in their life.
What can they do with more joy and happiness? Like, what will they enjoy that
Living
they
more
didn't
fulfilled
enjoy?
life.
What will they enjoy that they didn't enjoy before?
Um, well, if it's based around health, they'll have a healthier body and feel better and
What does
be able
that
to have
mean? Is that losing 20 pounds? Is that getting more sleep? Is that
all of the
um
above. I mean, it depends on why they're coming for it.
gotta pick one. This is how an offer works. You gotta pick one as your entry point. So the misnomer is if I say I do everything for everyone, it's not like no one will actually come to you because they can't pinpoint it for themselves. If you say with one session, you will get 2 more hours of sleep and wake up not thinking about that thing you think about every morning. That's very
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah, that one's not so much where I'm
So it's like, but you got to pick something tangible so that their reticular activating system can connect to an actual 3D thing that they can expect to happen at some point.
and see, I guess that's where I struggle with that. So like um when like I did it with one of my friends, her son had died and she's got so much grief and things like that. I'm like, let's go in and see if we can, help ease some of that a little bit, at least get you where you're just not numb all the time and, and just barely struggling to get up and get dressed every day. And so for her, we went in, we did a session, and she actually had a communication with her son, and she came out with a knowledge that he's okay. I mean, she's still in grief and all that, but she came out with a connection and knowing he was okay and just a peace of mind.
So,
When I did it with Mickey, the day after the night that Mickey and I did ours is the night she got pregnant. And that wasn't even
so,
actually what we were trying to do, but that was a result of letting go of things that she had going on
so
deep inside.
you could go get pregnant, processing grief.
Right.
You got to pick
Um,
something. You got to pick something, otherwise nobody notices.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know how to narrow it to one thing because there's so many different outcomes because everybody needs a different thing from the quantum. It's about healing their inner selves, but there's not one specific thing it does. It's different for everybody.
Oh, I get it, but until you pick one thing, you're not going to get a specific flow of people. If you pick one thing that's your favorite, that will speak to those people. But the people who know you will think, oh my God, what else can you do? But if you speak to all of it, it won't land where it needs to land. So if you pick one path, so it's like the difference of going all over the map trying to get to a specific location. If you go in one direction to a location, your people will find you.
So, like, I'm just trying to think of what common thread they might all kind of have could do because I want to be able to do the one, like maybe reducing trauma. I mean, is that too broad?
That's too broad. That's really broad. So, like, here's what you do. You start talking about it to people and you start saying, hey, look, if you're looking at getting pregnant, this thing happens, period. Hey, look, if you're,
But she wasn't even trying to get pregnant. She was trying to get rid of some stuckness, staleness, stagnation. And then that's the result of it I mean, she wasn't even trying to. They had been trying, not trying for 5 years,
isn't
but it was more like we're getting rid of trauma and stagnation, figuring out where things were stuck.
that's
And
not the
that
result.
the pregnant was just the result.
You got to start with the result if you want to be effective with it.
And like I said, that's where it's hard because I've done about 10 or 12 sessions and each one's had a different result because it's had a different thing they were going in.
Throw spaghetti at the wall and figure out what you like most, and your people will come. Like, there's stuff I said I was gonna stop the quantum healing stuff because it was so general. I'm getting more inquiries about that now that I've said I'm not doing it because I'm doing the offer thing. You're not going to push your people away, but what will happen is you won't speak to the people who need what you do now if you don't give that clear message. It's like a dog whistle versus a megaphone. A very specific person hears a dog whistle, but you may have to try a whole lot of things first before you're like, oh, I'm really good at this and I can kind of mechanize this. And then I can do this and this and this. I see where it fits. So it's going to be like a process of like fitting things, but you're going to have to just pick a few things at first versus wait to be picked.
That just seems, like I said, I don't, that just seems limiting to
Yeah,
what.
it's opposite is opposite. It does seem limiting. It's the total opposite.
Well, I'm just thinking because like of all the people I've done, if I was just doing one thing, I probably wouldn't have done but one or two of them because
Yeah.
only out of all the ones I've done, only one or two have been the same. But I love that been able to help all the ones I've helped by not limiting it to it's just based around this or just based around that.
So
Each one's crafted.
you're not limiting what's possible, you're narrowing someone's focus. So like if you want to focus on health, saying, hey, healing in the quantum will help you get money, you're not going to get health people. Or if you say, hey, look, I have this specific mechanism I use, it's help people get pregnant, it's help people do this, it's help people do that. You're not going to get people who care about money primarily. It'll be their secondary thing. It's who are you speaking to, but specifically with an offer, it lays out something someone can imagine to really make it.
So how about if it's worded like this? I mean, the common thing in all of it, I mean, I'm just trying to think even what the common like denominator is. The common denominator is you go in the quantum into your own quantum space
Mhm.
and you meet with your higher self to find what your step is at that point, no matter what your pain point is. You
Mhm.
go in and meet with your higher self to find out where your guidance is, what you need to do at that point, at that moment to progress your life to the next step.
So
Would
what's
that work as
happening?
far as narrowing where I'm not narrowing what
Here's
I'm
what's
doing in
happening.
it?
Here's where you're at. You are focusing on this and expecting people to decide this for themselves, which is fine, but you're going to get stuff all over the board. And at some point, it is much easier if you can paint a vision and you're actually going to get more people that way who resonate with your values. Because it's like if someone has to use their imagination to figure out what in my life is it that I want, maybe that this mechanism could work with, you're gonna get stuff all over the board, which may be fine, for a while. But this, trying to focus on that is the slowest way to get traction. I did it for a very long time. And I had the same fear about, but I'm going to limit everything. It's wild. Actually, more people will come, but it's the exact opposite of what you would think. Hold on, let me stop mirroring. What you might want to do is jump. Have you tried the offer builder yet?
Mm-mm. I just
Okay.
I just saw your thing about joining school or whatever, talking on the school thing. I just
Yeah.
saw your thing about it and joined it yesterday evening.
Perfect. Jump in there and it'll start asking you questions and give you ideas. But the thing about an offer is you're not limiting what's possible. That would be assuming you had all the power in the world to create anything. We all have a lot of power, but the
Yes.
message, the message is literally speaking to what someone is conscious of, that'll get their attention, that'll hit a piece in their soul, that'll draw them into your world. But if you start with a mechanism, they're going to use their logical brain and they're out. So, like if you paint a vision, hey, I did my unique mechanism and within a day someone got pregnant. It's not a lie, right?
So could it be that I help people release trauma? Is that too broad?
Way too broad.
Shit, Carolyn.
I would lean into stories of people you've already worked on. Like you don't necessarily have to pick an offer yet. Lean into storytelling right now, and that'll start drawing. You'll see who resonates with what, and you'll be like, oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted to work with. The interesting thing about saying I heal trauma is you're going to get a lot of people who don't actually want to solve their problems at the unconscious level. Not because they're being turds, but because there's so much secondary gain that they cannot move. I had someone uh there's a human making about 20 grand a month who cannot afford to fully unload all of her trauma with my amygdala unload, even though I told her I'd do a payment plan. And it's now 5,000. It was 3. She's like, I can't do that. She admitted she could do that after she got a refund, but it's like her mind says I can't afford it, even though she's clearly stated there's plenty of resource available. So what you'll get if you say I heal trauma is people who are resonating with trauma because the unconscious mind hears affirmatives. If you lead with the solution, the unconscious mind will hear, "Ooh, that's a thing I'd like to have." And then you're not battling problems from the get-go. But if you speak to problems, you will get problems. And you will get people in problem mode that don't actually want to solve it yet, even though they think they do.
I'm more confused now. I think that I'm just like,
Do what?
so I think I'm more confused now that I started.
Okay. Look,
Or
it took me,
I'm more messed up in here about it than I was. I mean, I don't, like I said, I just honestly don't know how to.
start talking about stories. Just start talking about results people got. I had a really hard time with this for a long time because it was trained out of me. Interesting, my North Node is Gemini and it's a storyteller, and my South Node is Sagittarius, so I had to see things happen before I would believe it. And that flipped, Saturn return, whatever. And now I'm like, crap, I'll tell the stories. I'll keep the people's, identity safe,
Anonymity. Yeah.
anonymity, but like crazy miracle stories, people need those. 4 Minute Mile wasn't possible until it was. Now it's the standard.
But if I start telling stories, then I'm not going to have one specific thing. Because like I said, everybody's journey has been different and kind of based around
Right.
something different that we
So
did it.
if you can't pick one thing, start telling stories and get market feedback that way.
And where do I tell it on? Just like on my Facebook and TikTok, or
Book, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you are, Reddit. I'm not a Reddit person.
I don't, I have
LinkedIn.
Facebook and TikTok, and my stuff from Facebook shows up on Instagram too, but I'm really not that savvy on Instagram. I'm just now learning on TikTok
Wherever you are, start telling stories there.
and Lemonade, which is part of TikTok or whatever.
Yeah. I don't really love Lemonade either, but your people are going to be whatever's easiest for you, start there, but start telling stories about what's already happened. So if you're like, I'm not sure, start talking and you'll notice how you feel and you'll notice how other people respond. Like I couldn't nail down my amygdala set point situation and hijack stuff until I started talking about it. But it was like I understand it totally differently than anyone else. And I don't know why. It's just not, it's easy for me because I lived it for so long, but it's a mechanism, not a solution, right? So like when I would talk about amygdala hijack, I'd get a lot of people talking about trauma. But the people talking about trauma are in problem mode, as I was too, and that's all I talked about. I'll talk about it sometime, but talking about solutions, it's just it's a different place to be. So there's generally an evolution, which I'm going to cover in the how to show up to attract the right people. I'm going to do an event on that. But it's leading with solution. You'll get less engagement, but you'll get more of the right people for what you're offering. Like
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've had it, and it's like it's total opposite of what you would think. The least engagement I get on some things, I'll have people direct message and be like, "Hey, I saw XYZ. Help." So it's a real, it's a real mind, you know what, on how that works.
Right.
But you got to try stuff, and you got to be brave enough to put a stake in the ground because until you're brave enough to put a stake in the ground, no one will see you as the leader in the direction they didn't know they could go.
I gotcha.
So if you're waiting on the client to lead you, like they're not going to pay you money to lead you where they want to go. They're going to pay you money to lead them where they didn't know they could go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Just gives me lots to have to
Oh, I know. Look,
go
I
in
feel
and try to figure out, break down, and just wrap my head around.
I
Yeah.
had been hearing about offers for 5 years and still couldn't understand them until about 8 months ago. And then I'm like, I'm going to simplify this. So it's kind of like I did this on TikTok and it got good feedback. I'm like, man, a lot of people don't understand these things. Imagine you go into a restaurant and they say, hey, Sharice, we have strawberries, pickles, asparagus, lamb, and eggs. What would you like?
I want some
Uh,
lamb.
yeah, but like I'd be like, well, I guess I'll just take one of them, but like no one would think to be like, okay, I would like uh Coca Lavine or like some 3-star Michelin thing. Like you wouldn't, the human would have to use their creative brain to figure out what could be done with the ingredients versus just here's a piece of lamb, enjoy. So it's your job to plate it and then make a menu item for someone to say yes or no to. But first, put a stake in the ground and walk in the direction before you know if anyone's going to follow or not. And then people will follow. But if you're waiting for people to follow, that's basically waiting on someone else to lead.
So how about if you word it like this? I'm still trying to find workarounds to do whatever. So basically, we know that most disease and things in the body is caused by some kind of a spiritual type issue, block something
You're still talking about
somewhere else.
mechanism. You're still talking about mechanism.
Well, yeah, but go work with me here for a minute. So
Okay.
we know that if you can get to the spiritual issue of it, that a lot of times you can heal the disease that's already happened. But I mean, even if they don't even know that that's what's going to happen, you're, so what if I
So
put
what
out that I help people get to the bottom of spiritual, um, blocks that are affecting their health?
give it a try. See what happens.
Could that be because basically that's kind of what it was with Mickey and the getting pregnant. It was a spiritual something going on that had to be. With a
That's a
couple of the others
grand
I've done, that's kind of been a common thing. I mean, different type results at the end, but basically it's trying to get rid of some dis-ease in the body, trying to go into the quantum to get rid of some dis-ease in the body, which then makes your life and
yeah.
makes your whole body better.
So it would be more effective to pick a dis-ease.
No.
You try it.
No.
So just like, throw it out there, make an I help statement, see what happens.
I guess.
I'm here to help time if you
Oh, I
want.
know. I'm just like I said,
You are a sovereign human.
oh, I know you are. I'm just like I said, I'm just trying to figure out a way to word it where it can be.
Trying to figure out a way to not put a result out there.
Well, no, but I mean that is a result, just not a
That's
specific
not a
disease,
specific result.
but a
Exactly.
general helping your body heal no matter what your disease is. It can help go in and you find the spiritual cause for whatever the disease in your body is.
Sure, try it.
I'm still trying to find what the common thread between all
So,
of them
so
kind of are.
this workshop is about an offer. You're focused on a mechanism, which is fine, but an offer is a specific result. So staying focused on the workshop, because we're about out of time here.
Oh, okay.
An offer is a specific result that will pique someone's reticular activating system to trigger it is or it isn't time for that. I think I want that or I don't. And then you name your
So
mechanism.
is a specific result not helping get rid of the dis-ease in your body? Is that not a specific
So it's
result?
a specific results. There's examples in the bundle.
Okay.
Specific result would be um, decrease pain from a 10 to a 7 in 3 days of like
Oh,
decrease
okay.
fibromyalgia pain from a 10 to a 7
Okay.
in 3 days.
Okay.
Cool. Bye,
I
Bridget.
got you.
But yeah, so check out, y'all. I dropped the doc in there. Hopefully this is helpful. I've got 4 openings for the blueprint, and we hash down. First of all, we go through, um, make the clear offer, and go through how to go around what the amygdala will try to get you to not do that someone would easily pay you 5 figures for. So that's check it out if you like. I got 5 openings Monday at close. I've made it as easy possible to get started. And yeah, anybody else have any other questions before I hop off here? No, no. Cool, cool.
Thank you.
Specificity is hard. I want to say this, Sherry, specificity is super hard, especially if you've ever had any medical training because you're trained away from it. You are trained away from
So,
it. It's technically illegal if you are in any kind of uh, system like that. So it is highly conditioned out of practitioners.
so question, would you be interested in doing a session with me and then maybe you could give me some feedback on what you think might could be a specific type thing?
Offer builder.
Well, I'm also trying to get my certification. I've got to find people to practice on. I've got a few more I've got to do.
Put an offer out there.
I've hit up all my friends.
Put an offer out there. If it doesn't even cost money, like, come on now. You should
Yeah, I
probably
hadn't even thought about doing that.
$10. Here's the offer. It lasts this long. Use the offer builder.
Okay. I hadn't even thought about, like, until I got certified, I hadn't even thought about putting it out there to
Put it out there. Most
like
people aren't
the
taught how to do
grand
that.
public. I've just gotten with friends, people that I knew that wouldn't think, okay, well, this is crazy. She's just learning. Is it worth doing this?
Yeah, that's that amygdala talk I mentioned earlier. So put an offer out there. It's the only
Okay.
way to find out. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Anybody else have any questions before I hop off? Thank you all for coming. We had several other who registered, but they're going to catch the replay. So cool. Cool. Any questions? Any questions? You got one, Emily? I thought I saw your face. Hey, Robin. Hi. Thanks for joining us. All right. Was it helpful? Hopefully it wasn't confusing. Cool. I'm actually going to offer walkthrough in the bundle. I didn't get it done before today, but there's plenty in there. So, all right. Thanks, y'all. Talk soon.